Welcome to BNEWS Weekly. I'm Phil Gallagher along with BNEWS Director Rich Hosford, BNEWS reporters Tad Stefanak and Robert Paris, and Marge McDonald, Council on Aging Director with Senior News. Thank you for joining us. A beloved family man, Shawshene Tech graduate and longtime Burlington Town employee passed away this week. James Marchesi Jr., retired highway lead foreman for the town of Burlington, passed away at Leahy Hospital and Medical Center on Friday, May 15, 2020. The husband of 24 years to Patricia Wagner, Jay was 64 years old. Jay was born in Newton and was raised in Burlington and was a graduate of Shawshene Technical High School. After high school, Jay entered the United States Army, serving his country for 2 years during peacetime. After that, he began his career with the town of Burlington DPW. Jay would meet his future wife in 1986. They dated for 10 years and grew their family before marrying in February 1996. They settled in Burlington where they raised 2 daughters. Jay worked for the town of Burlington for 35 years and retired as the lead highway foreman. He was recognized by the town for his dedicated service to the DPW at a selectmen's meeting on June 27, 2016, followed by a wonderful retirement party the following January. DPW Director John Sanchez said Jay was a friendly person who always wanted to take care of people, and that he always had the very best interest of the town at heart. He will be missed. You can find a link to his full obituary on our site at bcattv.org/bnews. In our effort again to bring you accurate information with a measured and professional take concerning all things coronavirus, we turn now to Dr. Wayne Saltzman of the Burlington Board of Health for our weekly update on the situation. Let's take a look.
Hi everyone, Dr. Wayne Saltzman, geriatrician and elected member of the Burlington Board of Health. For the past number of weeks, I've come to you with the goal of helping you stay informed, feel supported, and be prepared regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, as the emphasis has placed a focus on economic recovery, more so than healthcare recovery, this will be my last formal update. I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. Yes, there is exciting news about the vaccine potential coming hopefully in either late fall or early next year. There are 100 different vaccines being worked on, but we still have so much to learn about this virus. And you've all heard the numbers. Greater than 5 million confirmed cases worldwide, over 500,000 tests completed in Massachusetts with over 1,000 new cases a day in Massachusetts, for over 90,000 cases total. And people are still dying in Massachusetts due to COVID-19. Around 100 average for greater than 6,000 total. So I want to make sure we all understand that the idea of reopening and the smart phased-in approach that we're taking does not mean that we should consider returning back to what we thought was normal in our past lives. Please be alert that COVID-19 is still very much with us. Please continue your daily efforts in hand washing, cleaning surfaces that are commonly used, cover your nose and your mouth for sneezes and coughs, wear a mask when you can, maintain social distancing. Please seek medical care or contact your medical provider if you have any questions. Reach out to the Board of Health if you have questions or are looking for the latest update on COVID-19. And please, watch out for those who are more fragile, as they may need our voice or our help. Remember that we continue to be in this all together. Please stay safe and please be well.
BCAT would like to express our thanks to Dr. Wayne Saltzman for his continued attention to this matter for us on a weekly basis. On Monday, Governor Charlie Baker released the phased reopening plan for non-essential businesses and institutions in Massachusetts. The 4-phased plan is a bit complicated and leaves some and a lot of questions unanswered. To help make some sense of it, BNews Director Rich Hosford spoke to State Rep Ken Gordon over video conference. Let's have a look.
Hi, I'm now joined by State Representative Ken Gordon, who's going to sort of help us sort of make sense of the announcement from Governor Charlie Baker yesterday about the phased reopening. We are now in phase one, which allows some businesses to start reopening, mostly starting next Monday. Ken, what are we looking at as far as what can open and what is still kind of restricted?
Well, thank you, Rich. Thank you for having me. As you said, we're still in phase one, and what's open now is are the essential businesses, but also now manufacturing, construction, and houses of worship are entitled to open with certain restrictions. Restrictions as far as the number of people who can come inside, and that they have to be spaced out while inside. Um, that began this week. What's going to begin on May 25th is the commencement of work at lab space, at office space with restrictions, and the barbers and hairstylists can begin to work with restrictions. Also, automatic car washes and pet groomers can begin to work.
And as far as things like, you mentioned hairstylist, is that going to be, appointment only with certain, like barriers between the different stations? Like how do people envision, things kind of happening?
Right. So each of the businesses that is allowed to open has to follow certain regulations and protocols, and they have to certify that they've put these things into place. With respect to the hairstylists and barbers, yeah, Rich, is really what you said. They've got to stretch or spread their chairs out so that they're 6 feet apart. They're encouraged to put barriers up if at all possible. Um, People are not going to be waiting in waiting rooms. They're going to be outside of the business or in their cars, and then call in when the chair is ready. And they're asked to be appointment only.
Okay. What about
They're
outdoor?
also asked if they can to pay in a way that they don't have to handle.
Yeah, that's important too. What about outdoor recreation? What are we starting to see as far as opening up of, places where people can sort of maybe congregate, but with a easier distancing?
Well, currently people can be outside as long as they're 6 feet apart. So if you want to go out and run, take a walk, um, maybe as the weather gets a little nicer, go out for a canoe ride with, as long as you're 6 feet away, or with your own family member in the canoe or a kayak. You can currently do that, but the the restrictions um, on recreation are going to be a little bit later. On May 25th, though, we can open beaches to some extent. There's going to be restrictions. Parks to some extent. Again, there's going to be restrictions. Um, Athletic fields and courts, and outdoor adventure activities.
Okay. So as the weather gets warmer, at least there'll be some opportunities for people to enjoy it.
Right. As well as drive-in theaters. And I've been reading, not here in Burlington, but in some of the other areas, there may be some drive-in theaters put into the parking lots of restaurants.
Oh, that'll be interesting to see. And you just said the magic word. So
Yeah.
the last thing that I wanted to ask you about was, where do you see sort of the phased reopening of, actually dining in restaurants? I mean, it's such a big, important thing for, Burlington and a lot of this area.
Yeah, so the restaurants are considered to be in phase two of this program now. Phase one began this week, and then May 25th, there'll be the the hairdressers and the others opening. And then 3 weeks after that, at least, we'll look at phase two. The governor will look at the instances of the virus, the onset of the virus. Are more people getting sick? Are more people getting hospitalized? Hopefully the answer is no, and then we'll move into phase two. And that's when restaurants can begin to open with limited capacity. We're talking about, I've heard either 50 or 25% capacity with the tables spread out, and outdoor dining. The weather will be nice, and hopefully we can find a way by working with the local municipalities to allow the restaurants to put some tables outside and maybe what would be the sidewalks or perhaps some of the parking spaces, and do it that way.
I want to thank you for taking a couple minutes to talk to us today, and hope you stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.
Okay, up to this point, there's been no explanation as to how the state expects any restaurant to survive with a 25% capacity limit. The reopening of the state also has a lot of business owners and leaders trying to figure out their next steps. BNEWS Director Rich Hosford spoke to Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce President Rick Parker about his thoughts on the plan and what might be next. He has this report.
It's been quiet in the normally bustling business sections of Burlington since most places were closed on March 23rd. However, that is set to slowly start to change. On Monday, May 18th, Governor Charlie Baker outlined a 4-phase reopening of non-essential businesses and institutions. Starting Monday, construction and manufacturing was allowed to get back to work, with special precautions. On May 25th, businesses including office spaces, laboratories, hair salons and barbershops, car washes, and pet groomers can open, again with special distancing procedures. Remote fulfillment and curbside pickup of some retail will also be allowed. This is part of Phase 1, called START. Phase 2, called Cautious, which will happen in at least 3 weeks depending on the situation, will include, with restrictions, restaurants, retail, lodging, and additional personal services. The other phases will continue to see more openings and happen at a minimum of 3-week intervals. I asked Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce President Rick Parker his thoughts on the plan.
I think there was a long deliberation on exactly how the opening was going to happen and what the phases were going to mean. I think it's a deliberate plan by the governor to do it in a thoughtful manner, and keeping business and the economy as well informed as possible. But of course, there were a lot of questions and a lot of businesses asking, certainly, to be on that initial opening.
Of course, in Burlington, one big question is when restaurants will be able to open, and when they do, what it will look like and how it'll work.
And certainly all of the health data has to be positive in order to go into the second phase. The second phase, the restaurants will be allowed to open at reduced capacity. We're not quite sure what the limitations are going to be on the restaurants, whether it's going to be outdoors only, as Rhode Island did, or they'll allow some inside dining. We're waiting for that type of information, and we're trying to get that right now from the state to be ready to move into the next phase.
The reopening begins. Offices will be at reduced capacity. Masks will be required when social distancing isn't possible, and childcare will still be an issue. As retail opens, it will also be different than before the pandemic started.
The biggest change you'll see is it's going to be similar to what you're seeing now in the supermarkets. People have to stay away from each other. It'll certainly be at reduced capacities, and there'll be a little bit of the adaptation is going to be a little bit awkward going forward. This is, what we're calling the new normal, as we work our way back to what we used to know.
Finally, Rick said the more people adhere to the rules and take precautions to stay safe, the faster we'll be on track to getting back to normal.
What we want all businesses and all customers to know going forward, especially in this first phase, we don't go to the second stage without those health data numbers being in a positive direction. We're asking all businesses and customers to please abide by the rules to help us get to that second stage where other businesses could be allowed to open and bring the economy back to some sense of normalcy.
With BACC President Rick Parker over video conference, I'm BNEWS Director Rich Hosford.
New to the Burlington business community, Sekisui Diagnostic comes equipped to contribute to the ongoing effort against COVID-19. BNEWS reporter Tad Stefanak spoke to a representative of the company and has this look.
Headquartered here in Burlington, Sekisui Diagnostics develops and manufactures analyzers for infectious disease and general health, as well as providing flu and other rapid testing products.
We're in the medical supply chain, so it's very important that we continue to supply our products. Our flu testing kits were used as a frontline defense in COVID testing to identify if people have something else. So keeping production running was very, very important for us.
Maintaining their contribution to the COVID effort, at Sekisui, it's safety first.
We've brought everybody home that can work from home, and that reduces the number of people in any of our different sites. But where we do manufacture product, we've had to adjust the schedules. We've done staggered shifts. We've tried to space out the work to enable social distancing as much as possible.
We care about our employees. We're doing a lot for both people on site and also the people who are working from home who are have been thrown into the situation where now they're wearing a mom hat and a work hat and a house cleaner hat. And it's hard to juggle. There's a lot to it. And we want to make sure that the employees' mental health is taken care of.
So we've definitely looked at all of our products across the entire supply chain and tried to understand, so what's the highest priority? What are the things that are either a life-saving treatment or used in the battle to diagnose or differentiate different disease from COVID?
Sekisui is using a systematic approach in returning full-fledged to the workforce.
We've started to turn our attention towards what does return to work look like. We have operations across 4 different countries, multiple states here in the US. So we're really considering local guidance from governments, the local situation and circumstance.
A newer addition to Burlington, Sekisui Diagnostics looks forward to being a part of the community.
We're glad to be in Burlington. You'll be seeing a lot more of us once we're back to normal, and we can't wait to participate more in the Burlington community and hope to connect with everybody soon.
We're excited to be a new member of the Burlington community here. We're eager to get back to work to normal as much as possible. We are an important link in the medical supply chain. So check us out on the web, and we certainly are hiring frequently and looking to grow. So we'd love to add people into the fold here.
With Sekisui Diagnostics, I'm BNEWS reporter Tad Stefanak.
While we are all focused on the coronavirus, there is other news out there, including the fact that Burlington's 2020 town election is coming next month. BNEWS Director Rich Hosford has this look at the way voters can stay informed and what they need to know about voting either by mail or at the polls.
It's time to cast your ballots. The 2020 Burlington town election has been postponed until Saturday, June 6th, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the Burlington High School Gymnasium due to concerns over the coronavirus. You can also vote absentee or early voting by mail to avoid having to physically go to the polls. All information on how to do so can be found on the homepage of the town website at burlington.org. The only town-wide competitive race is for the 2 open seats on the school committee. The 4 candidates are incumbent Stephen Nelson and challengers Catherine Bond, Carl Foss, and Adam Sinesi. In March, before the pandemic really started, we had all 4 candidates in studio for debate on the issues facing the school department and what they would do if they won a seat on the committee. You can find that in our election center on our BNews page at bcattv.org/bnews. Also, this past Thursday, we had all 4 candidates on video conference for an update to the debate on the coronavirus that you can find online in the same location. This is also where you can find any letters to the editor we have received. If you'd like to send a letter in support of your candidate or candidates of choice, email them to bcat@bcattv.org. Remember, your vote has the most impact in local elections, so make sure you get out there and fulfill your civic duty. And you can join us on election night for the full results and interviews with the candidates. From our election center, I'm BNews Director Rich Hosford.
The Burlington Education Foundation isn't slowing during the COVID-19 pandemic. People from across the community showed their support by getting active in the first virtual Exercise for Education event. BNews reporter Robert Paris spoke to one of the organizers and has this report.
The COVID-19 pandemic did not stop the Burlington Education Foundation from having a race. Well, a virtual one. On Sunday, May 17th, the BEF held their first virtual Exercise for Education, where families and members of the community can get out and be active.
It was really an event in its simplest form. We did not want to have a registration process or a fee associated with this year's event because we really wanted to focus on the fact that it was a community spirit-driven event and not a fundraiser. We knew that we had a lot of participation from our sponsors, and we just really wanted some way for 2 things: the community to come together and some way to honor our sponsors as well.
The BEF found a way of seeing who attended the event.
I don't have a great concept of exactly how many people attended because it was virtual and everybody did their own thing. But based on the number of photos that were sent in, the number of replies from our email requests and things, We probably think it's about 100 people.
A number of businesses around the area came out and showed their support.
We have such a great community that we live in. It's very corporate based, as everybody knows, and they are really generous, especially when it comes to education. So this exercise for education is only one of the BEF's events. We have other events too, like trivia night. We have star awards. We have, a couple of other events, smaller events that we sponsor through the year too. So when our corporate sponsors sponsor us, we try to give them exposure at all of the events.
One of the biggest reasons for the fundraiser was to help the teachers and students and the Burlington Public Schools.
So we generate all these resources for them, and so our teachers are able to apply for some grant money. When they do, they fill out an application, just like you would for a normal grant. Then their application goes through a process with a grant committee here that we have on the Burlington Ed Foundation. And then, we make sure that it's tied, their request is tied to a curriculum, and that it's something that's new and exciting and that we can, afford, obviously, and support. And that's basically how we give our money out. So it goes directly to the teachers who request the money, and then in turn, right to our students.
I'm Robert Paris for BNEWS Weekly.
BNews reporter Robert Paris also spoke with Parks and Recreation Director Brendan Egan for an update. They talked about, among other topics, what the phased reopening means for the department.
We're all in this together, and we will be in this uncertain time for a while. Now that Governor Baker announced Phase 1 of the reopening process, I talked to Burlington Parks and Recreation Director Brendan Egan for another Parks and Recreation COVID-19 update and how things will move forward in the future.
Immediately, we started getting, the playgrounds are going to be open. I'm going to be able to go use this field. Are we going to be able, I want to get my field permit and things like that. So we spent the last couple days going through the guidance that the governor and lieutenant governor put out regarding the opening. And, we have prepared, what we're going to do here in Burlington based on those guidelines. Just to be clear that, playgrounds aren't open. So playground equipment isn't open. It wasn't just kind of a snap of the fingers and everything's, open. Field permits, we're not allowed to do field permits. There's not, gatherings, youth sports groups, adult softball, those things. Those aren't going to be happening in Phase 1. Phase 1, really the only sports courts and stuff that are open are tennis and pickleball.
A variety of activities are still uncertain at this time. However, the department is coming up with a plan for the summer.
We're still in discussion on that and, how that would look outdoors. And it's going to be how many people are allowed to gather. Right now, it's under 10. So if we had a concert on the Common, we're probably going to get, there's lots of people that are antsy. We'll probably get more than 10 people to come and watch in trying to figure out how we do that. And we talked a little bit about markings on the grass and how that would look. That could be a reality.
Lastly, the department is looking forward to seeing everyone out again in the parks as we work together to fight against COVID-19.
As we work through this and the curve continues to flatten, I hope that people are able to get back to typical operations and typical social interactions and things. I'd like to see people back out socializing and see our economy get going. Our kids out enjoying, the youth out enjoying programs in the parks in a responsible way. Greater picture, the larger picture, I hope that we're able to find some kind of cure or some kind of medicine, whatever that lessens the symptoms for people and whether there's a vaccine or just a cure to take it when if you contract it.
I'm Robert Paris for BNews Weekly.
The Senior Center may be closed to visitors, but the Council on Aging is still hard at work supporting our Burlington seniors. We go now to COA Director Marge McDonald for the latest senior news.
Hi, I'm Marge McDonald, Director at the Burlington Council on Aging. I want to thank everyone who is checking in on their neighbors. We expected many of our older residents to call us looking for groceries, but in fact we've had far fewer calls than we expected. And I know that is because Burlington is such an amazing town, and everyone steps up and leans in when needed. Keep up the good work. We are in this for the long haul. As Massachusetts slowly gets back to work, if you find you are unable to continue helping any neighbor you are helping, please let us know, especially if another neighbor is unable to step up to help. We understand that time will be much more precious when you have to go back to work and your children don't have to go back to school. We have been working to put programming online and to date have Sophia's fitness and yoga classes, Amy's art class, the 55 plus job seekers networking group, a caregiver support group, Tai Chi, Mahjong, and meditation all online. We are working on getting our coffee hour online as well. On May 18th at 1 p.m., we will also have Dr. Mike Stair of Orthopedics Plus with Fit Over 50. If you are interested, send an email to coa@burlington.org, and we will send you the link to register. Please know that although we want nothing more than to see everyone's faces again and hear you all in the hallways, it is going to be a while before we are able to reopen our doors. My understanding is the senior centers will be the very last group to reopen. We will be able to reopen our doors to one-on-one meetings by appointment before that, but I don't even know when that will happen. I will continue to send out emails with new information as I get it, and the print newsletter will continue to go out each month. We are working on ways to get everyone online and connected so no one has to miss out. I miss you all, and I look forward to the days when you are all back at the center.
Another week, another photo to highlight. This week's photo is one of my own and shows a tulip in bloom. Tulips are spring blooming perennials, and the flowers are usually large, proud, showy, and brightly colored, generally red, pink, yellow, or white. The flower has quite a history. In the 15th century, tulips were among the most prized flowers and were the symbol of the Ottomans. While tulips had probably been cultivated in Persia from the 10th century, they did not come to the attention of the West until the 16th century, when Western diplomats to the Ottoman court observed and reported on them. They were rapidly introduced into Europe and became a frenzied commodity during what is called tulip mania. We'd like to see your photos. They could be of your stay-at-home activities, shots of your pets, the coming signs of spring, or just the weather seen from your own backyard or porch, whatever you think is interesting and want to share with us and the community. Email your photos to bcattv.org with the subject line Photo of the Week. Okay, that's it from the news desk here at BNEWS Weekly. I'm Phil Gallagher along with Rich Hosford, Tad Stefanak, Robert Paris, and our director today, Jen Dodge. Thank you for joining us.